The Intermarque Silhouettes had their first races of the 2021 season at Lydden Hill on the 24th of April 2021. This year's series being sponsored by Avon Tyres. As we've seen through the TinTop and Super Saloon categories, in qualifying lap times were deleted thanks to drivers going over the white lines. It was fine margins within the session, but eventually the driver who came out on top was Ray Harris in his number 5 Ginetta G40. He himself had some lap times deleted, as did 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. It was great to see so many cars hit the track for the first event of the season, but there was an unfortunate incident in qualifying for Brian Loram in his 262 car, running a tad wide and hitting the barriers. This was unfortunately the end of his day. Saying this, he still managed to qualify 5th place in class, even with this incident which ended his day. So it'll be Ray Harris starting on pole for the first race of the season. We see the cars coming through the final corner in slow motion here, a fantastic grid of cars, and it won't be too long before all the drivers will be out in action once again. So the field would come through the final corner to start the first race of the day. The front of the pack was incredibly close in the opening stages. Some really great battles right through the field. Ray Harris obviously looking to try and convert his pole position into a race win to start off the season. Of course, that would be a fantastic result for him and his team. We would unfortunately have a few non-starters for this first event of the season. Some obvious with incidents in qualifying, others having car issues preventing them from coming out onto the racetrack for the first event. But nonetheless, the cars were speeding through the final corner here. Stones were being kicked up into our cameraman's face, but he didn't mind it too much. He got some great shots. Out front there was a fantastic battle for the lead of this race. The 491 of Colin Smith didn't manage to get the fastest lap of the day, but he managed to charge his way up through the field and capture the first position spot at the end of this one after a great drive in his Vauxhall Tigra. And as you can see here on board with Danny Russell's Vauxhall Tigra, just how close the field was throughout. Lap times were separated by just tenths of a second, and of course only 2 classes for the Intermarque Silhouettes, a normal series and then also a senior series. But nonetheless, all the cars are pretty evenly matched, and it's great to see this fantastic racing around a circuit which could be hard to overtake, but these drivers were on the limit and finding every which way to get an overtake in, which was fantastic to see so early on in the season, where everyone could be forgiven for taking it a little bit easy, getting to grips with the car after a few months out. But no, everyone was fully at it with some fantastic racing throughout the field. There was no livery yet on the number 24 of Lewis Smith, but he was absolutely flat out and had the fastest lap of the first race of the day. A 42.646 is a pretty incredible lap time so early on in the season. If we look into the senior category, it was Mike Thurley in his Ginetta G40 setting his fastest lap time within class for 43.998. It says a lot when the opening 6 drivers within the first race of the day were separated by just 6 seconds, so an average gap of 1 second between drivers at the head of the field is pretty incredible. The top 4 separated by 1.2 seconds at the start finish line at the end of the 17 laps for this one. Really good to see a close battle for the first event of the season. Of course, these drivers will be out very soon for their next round. It'll be interesting to see with the dynamic changes, a different style of track, possibly bring different drivers to the fore of the field. So at the end of race 1, the official winner was Colin Smith. The gap to Lewis Smith in second was officially down at 0.00. Ray Harris was third and Mike Thurley was in 4th place, winning the senior category. Race 2 later on in the day, unfortunately once again a few non-starters, but the action throughout the field was once again quite incredible, considering most of these drivers were out for the first time in 2021. They were right on the limit straight away, which is exactly what we want to see as fans. After claiming pole for the first race, it was unfortunate for Ray Harris that he didn't manage to grab the win, but he was on fine form in the second race of the day and determined to try and take that one back. Unfortunately, there were a couple of retirements as well. Early on in this race, we lost Mick Robinson. Lewis Smith also had to retire, as well as Richard Smith in his Mercedes SLK. It was nice to see such a variety of cars coming out for the first race of the season. We had Ginettas, we had Mazdas, with the Vauxhalls and the Volkswagens, and many, many more. Great to see such variety in the opening race of the season, and ever-expanding grid for the Intermarque Silhouettes within the Classic and Modern Motorsport Club South category. In the second race of the day, we unfortunately had less finishers than in the first, but in terms of fastest lap times, it would be Ray Harris in his Ginetta G40, claiming the fastest lap of the entire race and within class, a 43.530, that coming on lap number 4. In the senior category, it would be Richard Smith in his Mercedes SLK, who we mentioned had unfortunately had to retire from this race, but he managed to put in the fastest lap on lap number 7, 44.313, pretty respectable and not far off the overall fastest lap of the race. The conditions at Lydden were good for all drivers, no threat of rain, the sun was out in full force, which was nice to see on a late April weekend. The end of this race, it was getting quite close at the top, but it looked like one driver was running away with it. Ray Harris in his Ginetta G40 started to make a gap to Colin Smith in second place in the Vauxhall Tigra, the gap eventually being 4.4 seconds at the flag. There's another great drive by Mike Thurley in his number 29 Ginetta G40. So a spectacular weekend at Lydden Hill. Nice that the weather kept everyone in good spirits throughout. And we'll be looking forward to going back Intermarque racing with the CMMCS very, very soon. The 5th and 6th of June at Brands Hatch will be the standalone event for this series. Of course, you'll be seeing the TinTop categories and the Super Saloons out at Brands Hatch this weekend. But nonetheless, we look forward to seeing the Intermarque silhouettes at their own event at Brands Hatch very, very soon. Well done to all the drivers. It was a great race to start off the season. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you very, very soon for more racing with the CMMCS.